Hello and welcome everyone to another inventRight TV show. This is one of my favorite types of TV shows. We have an inventRight coach on, and his name is Scott Putnam. And then we got his student, Brittany Lammon. Am I pronouncing that right? I think I am.
It's Lammon, but
Lammon, got it. Okay, well, Brittany Lammon. And, you know, I love these interviews because you get an inside look of what it's like to be an inventRight student, and also, you know, the trials and the things that Brittany has gone through and how Scott has helped her. And, you know, so you're going to get a lot of good tips in here, even if you never sign up to be an inventRight student. So let's just jump right in. Brittany, why did you join inventRight to begin with?
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me. I love this. I love my coach, Scott. It's going to be around us. It's actually a funny story because I had started with a product in the hair industry. I'm a makeup artist and hairstylist for WWE, and I've been doing hair for 20 years.
Okay, so wait, hold on there. That sounds like a lot of fun.
I mean, is it? I don't know my own horn, but it is pretty amazing.
Okay, all right. I just had to say that. She's a hairstylist for WWE, so keep going. I didn't mean, people are probably like, what? That's cool.
No, it is definitely a good time, and I've got to travel the world with them, so it's been amazing. But I started with a hair tool in the very beginning of my inventing days and world and whatever. And I was talking to a friend, and I had been to trade shows, and, you know, anytime like I have any questions to ask anybody, first you go to your parents, you go to your aunts or uncles, you go to your friends or family. And I had never met anyone that had invented anything. So I started going to like meetup groups and little things around, you know, I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. There was different things here and there. And then I was talking to a friend one day, and I was asking him, like, you know, he was asking me. He said, you know, what would you do differently? You know, you've been in this space for a few years. What would you do differently? And I said, you know, to be honest with you, I'd love to have a mentor. Like I said, go to my parents, and nobody could help me out. So I was like, looking around, whatever. I went home that night and I got online and I said, mentor for inventing, and Stephen Key came up. And so I ended up reading his book, actually like audio book, One Simple Idea. I think I bought that book for 5 people now. And I just loved everything about it. And that's honestly when I started learning about licensing. It's because I had no idea that even existed. And so I was like, wow, I could actually do this. This is pretty darn cool. So that's how I started with inventRight, read the book, and then I was like, of course I have to join. I mean, it's amazing.
So you thought it was a good idea. Did it end up being a good idea? And what helps you? How does Scott help you? Why is it beneficial to have somebody that's been through it before guiding you?
And well, you can be honest. I mean, just because I'm sitting here doesn't mean you have to say.
You can tell, you can say all the messed up stuff, the bad advice he gives you. You can talk about all that stuff. That's okay.
Sure.
All right, so keeping you here, Andrew. I get it. Okay, got it. No, I feel like Scott has been amazing to me because I just feel like for me, the best part about inventRight is the mentorship. It's like they've been there, they've done that, they know the tricks of the trade, and I feel like I can call Scott. We have a meeting set up every Wednesday, and it's the accountability for me because I feel like every single week I know, hey, I'm going to have that call at 11:30 that I have to get my stuff done. And so for some people that may not work, but for me, it just pushes me because I know that I'm having that call with him. And so I just feel like, okay, you know, I have to spend some time on this. I have to do that. If not, I feel like I wouldn't be where I am today because of it.
Scott, can you talk about that too? It sounds like Brittany is very consistent. I've always said it's very important to spend 2 to 6 hours every week on your project. You go on vacation, okay, you take a week off. Can you talk about, is Brittany very consistent with doing things every week? And did she ever show up, I'm going to put her on the spot, with not getting something done? People get busy, and did she still show up? And so can you talk a little about that?
You can be honest now, Scott. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's been a couple of the cat ate my homework calls. You know, life happens, whatever. But no, I think, yeah, you know, for Brittany, she does show up prepared and consistent. And that's one of the things, too, that that as a coach, I've been at this a long time, and I've worked with hundreds of different students over the years, and it's always interesting to see the level of preparedness and the level of passion for their product. And Brittany is one of these students that really cares about the product, wants to do a great job, wants to know, wants the why, You kind of dig for like, okay, why? I know you said that, but why are you saying that?
I like
why
that. I
Which
like
is
that.
Great.
Yeah, Brittany, why do you, I mean, I love it because I tell new students, I say, don't hesitate to question your coach. Like if you're like, well, they're telling me to do this, like, why am I don't think that makes sense. And it sounds like you're doing exactly what I advise people to do is ask why, because then you're like, oh, now I know why. Okay, now I'm really going to do it. Otherwise, you might half-ass it. You might not do it because you're like, I don't think I need to do that. Scott, what is he talking about?
It's so funny that he says that because just in general, I ask a lot of questions. And I feel like the thing is that this is like, Inventing Academy, because I just feel like if you don't know what's going on, you're going to find it here. There's so many videos. Like even on our call on Wednesday, I was like, hey, where can I find this? And he's like, it's in this video and here, and this is what you have to do. And the reason why I asked that why is because he knows, and it's like, if I don't know, why not ask that question? And that's another thing is Scott will never feel like, he never makes me feel like I don't know something, like stupid or why are you asking that? He's like, no, this is how it is, and explains it to me. And I wanted to go back and talk about the accountability. There's been times because I'm on the road, and I'm in England or I'm over here traveling because I travel 5 days a week.
Yeah.
That's why I do a Wednesday call, and sometimes I've missed it. The great thing is that we can still email each other back and forth. And so like I'll say, I have to miss this call today, but this is what I was thinking. What do you think about this? And then he'll get right back to me on it. So I think that's a meeting as well, is that you just have that level of openness that they'll get back to you when they can.
You mentioned that you ask a lot of questions. I find that people before they come to us, they're like going in circles. They ask questions, but they're going in circles by themselves. And I would say, like, you can ask as many questions as you want to your coach, but your coach is going to look at your project and say, based on this project, you need to do, this is your list where you should look for your list of companies, sell sheet, outreach, whatever it is. And so did you find that it gave you some structure? And then you asked a million questions on this after you gave you the structure. Is that?
Exactly. And I feel like that's great because that's why inventRight gives you steps. So you're not just like thrown in it and just been like, okay, here you go. Now ask the questions. It's like, okay, let's go through step 1. Let's go step through 2, and then it's like, okay, I can ask questions about this. And that's why, like, also I like to do a recap. Okay, Scott, I don't do it all the time, but I like to do a recap of our meetings just because I have so much going on in my life that it's like, okay, we had a meeting on Wednesday and I knew that I blocked out 3 hours on Friday. What do I need to do so that I can go back to that and be like, okay, so I don't have to keep emailing him, hey, what did we,
Yeah. Scott, when we see some students struggling, we've kind of trained the coaches to ask the students sometimes to send an email recap after the call to make sure they're on track. Like you thought they're on track, but write it back. And it sounds like Brittany was just doing that on her own. Like, or did you ask her to do that, or did she just do it on her?
We kind of came to an agreement because I was saying, like sometimes I just feel like I always want more for myself, so I'm like, am I doing enough? That kind of thing. So I felt like he's like, okay, why don't we recap it? So then you are every single week getting this done. So it was definitely his suggestion, but I agreed as well.
Yeah. Scott, Brittany is, I'm going to guess, is a pretty action-oriented person, has a lot of high energy. Not every student is like Brittany, right? They don't all have that much energy. They're not as organized, like with recapping things and stuff. What advice do you have for people that don't feel like, well, Brittany, she's, because sometimes people make excuses. Well, she's dynamic. She's full of energy. She's got all these questions and stuff. I'm not like that. I don't think I can do this. And so maybe I'll ask Brittany too. But Scott, what advice do you have for people that maybe aren't like Brittany, but they can be more like Brittany? It's a compliment, Brittany, by the way.
Thank you.
I want to get a T-shirt that just says "Be more like Brittany."
Yeah.
I'm on board. Let's do it.
They might be thinking that Spears woman, but who knows?
Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
Put my last name at the bottom.
You know, it's interesting. That comes up a lot, you know, especially when people get to the point of calling companies like, well, I don't have that energy. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not naturally good with people. I'm not very talkative. I'm not whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be. I mean, for everybody, it's like, be who you are.
Hmm.
You know, don't try to be a different version of yourself that's closer to somebody else. You know, we'll give you the skills. We'll make sure you're prepared for everything. We have a lot of tools. We have a lot of, you know, information, and we can do practice calls on the coaching, you know, our coaching calls. My advice is don't overthink it. Just trust the process. Just go through the steps, you know, and don't try to really force anything that doesn't feel natural. We're going to stretch your comfort zone a little bit, you know, through this process, and everybody's comfort zones
Yeah.
are different depending on the area. Some people are a little more like, PPAs, that really makes me feel anxious. Other people are like, whatever, I don't care. I'm just more nervous about calling companies.
Right. Right. Right.
Whatever that is for the student, that's a big benefit of the coaching, is we can talk through that and say, I've been there. I mean, all the coaches were students once too. Andrew was my coach, and I probably talked me through some of that too. I'm trying to remember now, but you know, all of us get nervous for different reasons. But part of the process is really allowing yourself to walk through it, not run, not sprint, but just walk through the process. And I think that's where, yeah, weekly calls are a big deal.
Brittany, can you talk a little bit about that? There's a big difference between dreaming up ideas and actually working on licensing them. And even though you're not starting a business, you don't need to hire employees, raise money, do all that stuff, but you still need to do a bunch of stuff. And was that a transition for you? And I think you're well through that transition now. You know the steps. And what's your mindset? And can you talk about how the inventing part is a small part of it, and the work to license it is a much bigger part of it?
Definitely. And I feel like the key for me is consistency. Is that you just have to stay consistent. And like the thing is like you're saying, you know, yes, of course you don't have to be like me and be overly zealous and, you know, wild and crazy. But at the same time, is if you're consistent with the way that you do things, you know, and every single week show up and be passionate about your product. It's your product. It's your baby, you know, like they always say. And it's like, if you keep showing up, things will happen. They always say work in motion, you know, things will happen. And that's what it has happened for me. And like Scott said, be yourself. Don't be someone else, because they're going to know that you're fake on the phone.
Right.
And I want to tell people too, like, I'm not great on the phone. Like, I always get nervous, like, but I just have to keep doing it to make myself more comfortable. And I feel like once I start, you know, first call of the day, okay, a little rough. Second call, third call, then I'm like, okay, I got this. This is the groove. This is what it is. And it's just about being consistent.
That's, you know, I'm glad you said that. That's what I've noticed over 22 years of doing this, the students in 65 countries, that the students that are successful are the ones that are consistent. And not consistent with dreaming up ideas, but consistent with doing the work. And there's an acceptance that, no, all this stuff we teach our students is not as much fun as the ideation, the creation of the idea, but it's necessary. It's an acceptance. Some people are like, yeah, I don't have a blast doing it, but I know I need to do it, so I do it. You know, just like we sweep the garage or we make dinner, you just have to do it. And it's hard for people to accept that. But I'm really creative and I'm going to create something else. And it's like, yeah, great, but you got to put the work in. So
right. I think like being an inventor, I mean, I just feel like I have like the inventor brain, right? And so I'm always coming up with new ideas. And Scott's always there to be like, okay, let's just bring her back in a little bit. Let's focus. And you know, because we all do that. And you know, you talk to people on the street and say, hey, I came up with this product, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, I have a product. Well, the thing is everybody has a product. It's actually the doing part.
Yes. Yeah.
Is part. But at the same time, then you get to see your product made and on shelves. And I mean, that's when it's, you know, really.
So what you're saying is you don't need to be a full of life, energetic WWE hair and makeup stylist in order to do this.
It helps.
And it helps.
No, Scott, come on. No, of course not. And that's the thing is like, I feel like honestly, if you put the work in, anybody can do this.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Because for me, like, I just feel like too, like, I'm very, very busy. So I when people say that, like, I just don't understand. It's like, I worked on planes. I'm doing this meeting in a hotel room right now. You can use your cell phone for anything nowadays.
Okay, so that's my last question for you, and maybe Scott will chime in too.
Yep.
I
Sure.
love that you said that, because people come up with a lot of excuses they're too busy. And why are you able to find the time? You're traveling, you're always busy, you're always on the road. You would have a million excuses if you wanted to not to work on your projects, you know? And so what's your mindset? Is it because are you envisioning your product on the store shelves or in a customer's hand? Do you make it a priority? Like, what is your thought process? And then maybe Scott can talk about your energy and what he thinks it is too. Go ahead.
I mean, for me, honestly, the best is to have a schedule, because I know that I travel on Sunday, work on Monday, come home Tuesday, and I'm working that entire time, like getting up in the morning. I know I need to get in my workout. I know I need to spend an hour on my product, because I do have that envision, and I know that my product needs to be there, because it's a product that people needs. And it's like, I just feel like, going back to consistency, is that if you get up and you do this every single day for an hour, for 30 minutes, whatever, everybody can make, I feel like, 20 minutes of their time. Even if it's listening to, like, I used to travel during COVID, I would drive back and forth instead of flying. I would listen to inventRight podcasts in the car, just to keep your mind always going with that, and never getting too far off course, being like, well, you know, I'll do it tomorrow.
I'm going to clue into one thing you said. You said you schedule it, even though you're busy. And I always say, you know, you can schedule it, and then you got a backup plan, because your schedule might change, maybe not, but then you got a backup plan to still get your hours in that week. Let's say you wanted to spend 3 hours. How important is that, Scott? And then we'll wrap up. How important is the scheduling, have you found, well, not just Brittany, but all our students and for any inventor?
Yeah, I think that really comes down to prioritizing this. You know, I think with Brittany too, she has such a strong, compelling why, like her reason for wanting to do this in the first place. That becomes the driving force, I think. And then it's just a matter of prioritizing. And we talk a lot on the coaching calls, not so much with Brittany, but other students, about use your calendar as a tool. If you're finding that you're not prioritizing it because the laundry's screaming at you, or the dishes, or whatever, we can always find reasons not to do things that we feel uncomfortable doing or aren't that excited about doing. But really putting time on the calendar and making it a priority and being committed to the product.
Yes.
And if somebody's feeling stuck, or they're feeling fearful, or, you know, hey, I started making calls and I got a couple of no's, so I just want to start the next project because it's more fun. It's like these little shiny pennies.
Yes.
The reason we do all this other stuff is so that you can get on the phone and do it. And I know maybe there's butterflies or you feel nervous, but that's the stretching of the comfort zone. And that's what you just have to walk through. And if we need to get it on the calendar, we do it. There's also things too with coaching where with some students we'll set goals on the calls, and we'll say, okay, they will tell me by Wednesday I'm going to have these 2 things done. And I say, cool, email me Wednesday. And if I don't hear from you Wednesday, I'll email you Thursday and check in. Maybe I'll do it all caps, so it's like I'm yelling at you if you want me to do that. Or whatever people need, right? But you know, there's the accountability, and like Brittany said, just having weekly calls is kind of a built-in accountability anyway.
Does it make all the difference, Brittany?
All the difference.
Yeah.
It really does, because I know that somebody else is counting on me to get something
right.
done.
Right. And when you're on your own and you got an invention, you tell your friends and family, but they don't know what's going on in your head. They can't support you that way.
Exactly.
And even if a lot of times they are very supportive, but they can't give you any advice. When you give advice plus support together as a combo, and you know what you're talking about, that's really powerful, you know?
And I feel like having a coach that has been there, done that, like I said before, and having the passion of inventing, it's just like we feed off of each other when we have our calls. You know, like after I get off, I'm like, okay, this is the time that the best time for me is to work on the product, because I'm in it and I've been talking about it, and it just works so well. That way.
All our coaches, especially Scott, have something very special. They know how to license, but we saw something in them when they were students. where they're a really helpful person. Scott's a super helpful person, as you know. And so when you have that, oh, shucks. When you have the experience and you want to help. Now, I have students that they've licensed 5-6 products and they're doing great. And I would never ask them to be a coach. It's no barb on them because they're like, they're not thinking about others. And so coaches have something extra. They know how to license and they really want to help others. And I'm very proud that we set up that system to only hire exceptional past inventRight students, and Scott is one of them. So
thank you for inventRight, and thank you, Scott, of course.
Okay. Thank you guys. I mean, this is really all about Brittany and our students, but I appreciate that, and it does make a difference because like I talk about on the first coaching call, your win is our win. We want you to win. We want you to succeed, be successful, learn how to do this, do it as long as you want to do it.
Yeah.
So we're all moving in the same direction, and I think that makes a big difference.
Thank you, Scott.
I want to thing because I just feel like what he said is like it's community. It's not just you, Scott. Of course, I love you, but it's not just your coach. It's like using the whole system, and there's a community of people that you can go and ask any questions to, and like-minded people are the best people to be around when you're trying to invent something.
Brittany, you've got a great energy. I think people watching this are gonna get off and go, I can do this. And Scott, you know, you did a good thing today. Thank you so much for coming on. Scott, thank you for coming on as well. And I remind everybody to take care and keep inventing, and we'll catch up with you guys next time. See ya.